You've probably met her before. That one woman who walks into a room like she owns it. She's confident, outspoken, always has something to say. On the surface, she seems sharp, maybe even inspiring. But if you look closer, something doesn't add up. She thinks she's ahead of the game, she thinks she's in control. But deep down, she's building her life on a foundation of illusions. And the most dangerous part? She doesn't even know it. This video isn't about shaming. It's about awareness, because if you can't recognize these traits, if you confuse surface-level confidence for true wisdom, you won't just get tricked by her. You might slowly become her. The kind of woman who sabotages her own peace, her own relationships, her own growth, without ever understanding why. And here's the truth. Intelligence isn't loud. Wisdom doesn't beg for attention. Strength isn't about being right all the time. But in a world full of noise and fake empowerment, it's getting harder and harder to tell the difference. So I want to ask you something. Have you ever trusted someone only to realize they were never as put together as they seemed? Or worse, have you ever looked in the mirror and seen a version of yourself you no longer recognize? If that hit a nerve, don't look away. Because in the next few minutes, we're going to unpack 6 signs of the kind of woman who seems powerful, but is actually stuck in a cycle of self-deception. Listen closely. Every word of this matters. Let's talk about attention. We live in a world where being seen feels like being somebody. A world where if you're not posting, you're disappearing. If you're not getting likes, you're not relevant. And for some women, attention has become the currency of self-worth. You've seen it, haven't you? The woman who constantly updates her story, not to connect, but to be noticed. Who stirs up drama not because she's upset, but because she needs to feel alive. Who quotes spirituality and healing, but deep down just wants someone to say, "You're special." She's chasing eyes, not meaning. And here's the problem. She thinks being watched is the same as being valued, but it's not. True value doesn't chase the spotlight. It is the spotlight. It's quiet, grounded. It doesn't need applause to feel real. You ever meet someone who just walks into a room and everyone feels it, even if they say nothing? That's presence. That's power. And it doesn't come from being loud or visible. It comes from substance. Attention fades. It's addictive, unstable, and worst of all, it lies. It tells you you're important when really, you're just trending. So ask yourself this. Do you want to be admired for how you look in a highlight reel, or respected for who you are when no one's watching? Because the first path burns fast. The second builds forever. And if you meet someone who confuses one for the other, walk away. She's not looking for truth, she's looking for her next hit of validation. Let's get real about something we don't like to admit. Self-control isn't sexy, but it's everything. You see, some women believe freedom means doing whatever they want, whenever they want. Spend money like there's no tomorrow. Text. That toxic ex because he might have changed. Skip responsibilities in the name of self-love. Sounds empowering, right? Until the credit card bill hits. Until the heartbreak feels all too familiar. Until 5 years pass and nothing's really changed. This is what happens when you confuse impulse with independence. A woman who lacks self-control is a woman at war with herself. She knows better, but she doesn't do better. And over time, that pattern doesn't just cause problems, it becomes her identity. But here's a truth I've learned the hard way. Discipline isn't restriction. It's direction. It's what lets you say no to temporary comfort, so you can say yes to long-term. Strength. It's what builds the kind of woman who doesn't just survive chaos, but rises above it. Ask yourself this. Would you rather feel good for a moment, or feel proud for a lifetime? Because the short-term hit, whether it's shopping, drama, or distraction, will always be tempting, but it will never build a meaningful life. Real freedom doesn't come from doing whatever you feel. It comes from choosing what serves your future, even when it's hard. So when you meet someone who chooses comfort over growth every time, take note. She's not free, she's stuck, spinning in circles she calls choices. You ever meet someone who talks so much, you start forgetting what silence feels like. She's always got something to say, always giving advice, always debating, even when no one asked. But if you really listen, you'll notice something's missing depth. She talks to be heard, not to be helpful, to feel smart, not to be wise. It's not about insight, it's about attention. And the irony? The loudest voice in the room is rarely the one with the answers. Truly intelligent people, they don't rush to speak. They pause, they listen, they weigh their words the way a sculptor shapes clay, with intention, because they know that real influence isn't loud. It's precise. But a woman who talks more than she thinks. She'll argue just to win, not to understand. She'll share opinions like confetti, colorful but empty, and she'll dominate the conversation just to feel like she matters. But deep down, it's not strength, it's insecurity in disguise. I've learned this the hard way. When someone constantly speaks over others, what they're really saying is, please don't look too close, I don't want to be challenged. So here's a question for you. Do you want to be heard or do you want to be understood? Because one requires noise, the other requires clarity, humility, and silence. If you meet someone who's always talking but never learning, take a step back. Not because they're evil, but because you can't grow when the room is filled with empty words. Let me ask you something. Have you ever met someone who has a reason for everything going wrong in their life except themselves? She's single. Men are trash. She's broke. The system is rigged. She fails. Someone else messed it up. There's always a finger pointing somewhere, but never inward. This is what a victim mentality looks like. And let's be clear, it's not about pain, it's about refusal. The refusal to reflect, to grow, to admit, maybe I had a part in this. You see, life hits all of us, but what separates the wise from the foolish isn't how often they fall, it's what they do after. A wise woman stumbles, then asks herself why. She doesn't look for excuses, she looks for lessons. A foolish woman? She trips on the same cracks over and over, and keeps blaming the pavement. Here's the truth that hurts. You can't rewrite your life if you're busy rewriting the blame, and I get it. Taking responsibility is uncomfortable. It's a spotlight on your choices. It's looking yourself in the mirror and saying, I didn't just let this happen, I helped it happen. But that's where freedom begins. Not in blaming others, but in owning your story. So the next time someone tells you their whole life is someone else's fault, listen carefully, not to the story, but to what they're not saying, because accountability isn't weakness. It's the first step to becoming unstoppable. You want to know a secret that reveals someone's future? Look at their friends, not their resume, not their Instagram, their circle, because the truth is, no one rises above the people they spend the most time with. Some women surround themselves with people who enable them. Friends who gossip, lie, stir up drama, not because they're evil, but because it feels familiar, comfortable, safe. But here's what she doesn't realize. That comfort is a cage. She doesn't choose friends who challenge her. She avoids the ones who hold her accountable, because deep down she doesn't want growth, she wants approval. She wants to feel right, not be better. But a wise woman, she doesn't just pick people who make her feel good. She picks people who make her grow, people who call her out when she's off track, people who inspire her to think deeper, live truer, rise higher, because she knows something most people ignore. You become who you spend time with. So ask yourself this: if your 5 closest friends stayed exactly the same for the next 5 years, would that make you proud or scared? Because if the people around you are stuck, small-minded, or full of drama, chances are you're shrinking to fit in. So when you meet a woman whose entire world is built on gossip, chaos, and co-signing, bad decisions, don't just look at her. Look at her circle and remember, it's not just who she is today, it's who she's becoming because of who she's with. Some people don't need enemies. They sabotage themselves perfectly fine. She's in yet another toxic relationship. Same red flags, different face. She's broke again. Despite all those promises to get it together, she's stuck in the same job, same habits, same mindset, and still blames bad luck. But it's not bad luck, it's lack of learning. See, a wise woman stumbles once, maybe twice, but she changes her shoes. She asks, what is this pattern trying to teach me? Foolish woman. She walks the same path in the same heels and trips over the same cracks again and again, and then wonders why life keeps hurting. But here's the deeper problem. She doesn't even think it's her. She thinks the world is unfair. She thinks pain is just her destiny, but pain is not the problem. Refusing to learn from it is growth. Doesn't come from time. It comes from reflection, from responsibility, from asking, what can I do differently next time? And meaning it. Here's a truth most people avoid. If you keep living the same year over and over and calling it growth, you're not evolving, you're looping. So ask yourself, are you learning or just repeating? Because the woman who refuses to learn from her mistakes isn't cursed. She's just committed to staying exactly where she is. And if you're serious about change, real change, it starts the moment you stop blaming the world and start paying attention to what life is trying to teach you. So let's bring it all together. The true difference between a wise woman and a foolish one, it's not in how loud she speaks, it's not in how many books she's read, it's not in how confident she looks on the outside, it's in how she lives when no one's watching. A wise woman isn't perfect. She doesn't have all the answers, but she shows up for her life with intention. She practices self-control. She takes responsibility. She learns from her past. She surrounds herself with people who elevate her. She doesn't chase attention. She cultivates value. And the foolish woman? She does the opposite. She spins in circles, looking for something outside that she refuses to build inside. But here's the most important truth of all. Wisdom is not something you're born with. It's something you choose every day, in how you respond to pain, in who you keep close, in what you tolerate, in whether you blame or build. So if today's message made you pause, good. That means something in you is ready to shift. Maybe you saw someone you know in these signs, or maybe you saw a version of yourself, one you're ready to leave behind. Whatever the case, remember this. You are not stuck, you are not broken, but you are responsible for who you become next. So choose with care, because the world doesn't need more noise. It needs more women of quiet, grounded, unshakable wisdom. And that